פעמים הטובות שעשית עמנו ועם אבותינו. שוננו רינה בשפתותינו שבח במרחבי הקיעה. אין אנחנו מספיקים להודות לך על אחת ועשתיך לי לעולם בצדק ובמשפט בחסד וברחמים. ועשתיך לי לעולם בצדק ובמשפט בחסד וברחמים. ועשתיך לי באמונה, ועשתיך לי באמונה, וידעת את השם, והרסתיך לי באמונה, והרסתיך לי באמונה, וידעת את השם, את השם. והרסתיך לי לעולם בצדק ומשפט בחסד וברחמים. ועשתיך לי לעולם בצדק ומשפט בחסד וברחמים. ועשתיך לי באמונה, ועשתיך לי באמונה, וידעת את השם, ועשתיך לי באמונה, ועשתיך לי באמונה, וידעת את השם, את השם.
Good evening and Shana Tova. It's wonderful to be back together in this, our virtual Mishkan. I'm honored to be leading services tonight. My name is Rabbi Jeremy Morrison, and I'm thrilled to be joined tonight by my colleagues, Cantor Jamie Spall, Rabbi Sarah Weissman, Rabbi Heath Wademaker, and Rabbi Jonathan Prosnett. And if this is your first time celebrating the high holidays with Beth Am, we welcome you to our celebration and to our congregation. Our Machzor, Mishkan HaNefesh, is our guidebook for the path that we will walk from this sundown to the next. And if you don't have one in your hand, you can utilize the flip book. There's a link to it on our website. And so now, we begin our trek. A difficult day lies ahead, but one that holds the promise of rebirth and of renewal. And we take our first steps together by lighting this Ner Neshama, this flame of memory. The human spirit is the lamp of God, searching out what lies within us. Guided by the flame of conscience, on this sacred night, we search for truth. Shine your light upon us as we strive to serve you. May we find safety in your faithful love. We light the flame of healing and forgiveness on this atonement night. We give thanks for love. Page 9. Baruch atah Adonai, notea betochenu chayei olam.
Amen.
And now it's my privilege to invite our education staff, Sarah Lowing and Alex Lyon and Chelsea Mandel, to lead us in kindling the Yom Tov lights.
The human spirit is the lamp of God, searching out what lies within us.
Guided by the flame of conscience, on this sacred night we search for truth.
Shine your light upon us as we strive to serve you. May we find safety in your faithful love.
We light the flame of healing and forgiveness. On this atonement night, we give thanks for love.
Ata Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Yom HaKippurim. Source of blessing, eternal our God, you fill the universe with majestic might, teaching us holiness through sacred obligations, giving us the mitzvah of bringing light on Yom Kippur.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehecheyanu v'kiyemanu v'higianu lazeman hazeh.
In its emphasis on humility, Kol Nidre provides a corrective to the toxic certainties of polarized discourse. What if we approached each other with the humility to recognize that our most confident convictions will always be qualified by the limits of our own knowledge and understanding? In its haunting melody and strangely legalistic language, we begin to sense the twilight truth. Our high horses too often stumble, and our soapboxes stand on shaky ground. Kol Nidre grants us the gift of sacred uncertainty, the chance to begin this new year with a sense of what we do not know, rather than a narrow certainty about what we do. It's what Buddhists call beginner's mind. What if every time I were ready to proclaim some self-evident truth, I allowed Kol Nidre to whisper in my ear, "Says who?" We begin now Kol Nidre with Max Brooks' well-known composition, his setting for Kol Nidre, performed by Donna Rudin and Dimitri Kogan. And as you listen and watch, you will notice that we've done our best to uphold a cherished Beth Am tradition of having our past presidents hold our Sifrei Torah during the chanting of Kol Nidre. Watch, and you'll see what innovations lie ahead. Please rise if you are able as we continue on page 16.
ובשיבה שלמטה על דת המקום ועל דת הקהל אנו מתירים להתפלל עם העבריינים.
With one voice, assembled sages past and present declare, all may pray as one on this night of repentance. Let none be excluded from our community of prayer. With one voice, God and congregation proclaim, all may pray as one on this day of return. Let all find a place in this sacred assembly. We continue on page 18 with the chanting of Kol Nidre.
וקונמי מיום כיפורים זה עד יום כיפורים הבא.
Join with me on page 19. Give us the strength to keep our promises, the sacred vows of partners in marriage, the promises of love and care between parents and children, the promises of duty between citizens and country, the oaths of doctors, the sacred trust of teachers. Give us the strength to keep our promises to our friends and colleagues, to those who live with us and depend on us, to those who work for us and those for whom we work, to those who pray with us and those for whom we pray, to those we love and those we serve. Give us the courage to keep our promises to ourselves, to one another, and to future generations. Moses prayed to God, "As you have been faithful to this people ever since Egypt, please forgive their failings now, in keeping with your boundless love." And God responded, "I forgive as you have asked."
Vayomer Adonai salachti kidvarecha. Vayomer Adonai salachti kidvarecha. Vayomer Adonai salachti kidvarecha. Salachti kidvarecha, kidvarecha, kidvarecha.
Please be seated. After the flood, Noah got drunk. It's understandable. 40 days and 40 nights on the ark, quarantined with his 3 sons and their wives, and with all those animals. So when he finally got off that big boat, Noah planted a vineyard and got drunk. This isn't the part of Noah's story we teach to our children. There's no, the animals went in 2 by 2, hurrah, hurrah. The animals went in 2 by 2, hurrah, hurrah. There's no children's song about the end of Noah's story. You might not even know the end of Noah's story. That's because every year we typically focus on the first part, actually all the other parts of Noah's tale. But you're familiar with its opening words. Noach ish sadik, tamim haya bedorotav, eta Elohim hitalech Noach. Noah was a righteous man. He was blameless in his generation. With God, Noah walked. We read these words, and then year after year we discuss Noah's righteousness, or his relative righteousness. What does it mean that he was blameless in his generation, we ask? Would he have been considered righteous had he lived in Abraham's generation? We talk about his righteousness, and then we contemplate rain and rainbows, ravens and doves, and olive branches. And where exactly is Mount Ararat? And what about those timbers that archaeologists found near its summit? Maybe the ark really did exist. On Sundays, in schools, we measure out the dimensions of the ark and discuss with our students, how could Noah have fit all of those animals in there? How did they survive while floating on the water? And what did they eat? Year after year, that's what we talk about when we talk about Noah. We focus on the story's mythic properties, a story about a mythic wise man who, like Gilgamesh, survived a mythic flood on a mythic boat, and rarely, if ever, do we contend with the real-world implications of its ending. I know that I haven't. In more than 25 years of teaching the texts of the Torah, I have never taught the last part of Noah's story until tonight. I have never taught Genesis chapter 9, verses 18 through 27, because until recently, I did not know that these 10 verses of the Torah had anything to do with me, a white American Jew. And if you're at all like me, Jewish and white, and are committed to pursuing righteousness in our generation like Noah did in his, then it is what happened after the flood, at the end of Noah's story and its millennia-long interpretive afterlife, that calls out to us for a reckoning. There are no other 10 verses in the Torah that have been more consequential to American history. If relevancy is your watchword for engaging with Torah, then pay attention. For no other 10 verses are more relevant to these past 10 days. They are relevant to this entire season, actually, and to this year of 2020, and perhaps to every year since 1619 and the beginning of slavery as an institution in America. It would not be far-fetched to say that the Civil War was fought because of these 10 verses. Genesis 9, 18 through 27 calls out for a reckoning, and it calls out in particular to us. For we, Reformed Jews, we possess the capacity, the power, to reckon with the impact of an ancient story that served as the foundation stone for the construction of caste here in America and also in Nazi Germany. 2 interrelated caste systems where in one, we Jews were its victims, and in the other, white Jews, we, are its continual beneficiaries. Let me explain. The animals went in 2 by 2, hurrah, hurrah. The animals went in 2 by 2, hurrah, hurrah. The animals went in 2 by 2, the elephant and the kangaroo, and they all went into the ark for to get out of the rain. This is the end of Noah's story. After the flood, Shem, Ham, and Japhet were the sons of Noah who came out of the ark. Ham was the father of Canaan. These three were the sons of Noah, and from them the whole world branched out. Noah, the tiller of the soil, planted a vineyard. He drank of the wine and became drunk, and Noah revealed himself within his tent. Ham, the father of Canaan, saw Noah's nakedness and told his two brothers. But Shem and Japhet took a cloak, they put it on their shoulders, walked backwards, and they covered their father's nakedness. Their faces were turned the other way so that they did not see their father's nakedness. It's unclear what exactly happened in Noah's tent, but it must have been something pretty bad, because when Noah woke up from his wine and learned what his youngest son Ham had done to him, he said, "Damned be Canaan, the lowest of slaves shall he be to his brothers. Let Canaan be a slave to them. Eved avadim yehieh le'achav, the slave of slaves, the lowest of slaves shall Ham be to his brothers." The story of Ham's discovery of Noah's nakedness and of Noah's curse of Ham, that's what in English the curse becomes known as, the curse of Ham. This story floats like the ark across time, stowing in its holds new and unintended meanings, such as Shem, Ham, and Japhet's descendants spread across the continents. Shem to the Middle East and to Asia. Japhet's descendants journeyed west to Europe. And Ham, well, his people went south to Africa. It is indeed startling the meanings that a 10-verse biblical story can come to hold. Between the 2nd and 4th centuries of the Common Era, in Jewish and Christian interpretations of the curse of Ham, the sons acquired hues, pigmentations. Blackness was introduced into the retelling of an originally colorless biblical story. The name Ham was thought to be related to the root chet mem mem, meaning hot, or to the word chom, a term that can mean dark or black or sooty. Scholars aren't actually sure what the name Ham means, but no matter, for where is it hot and where are people black? In Africa. Lighter-skinned, in particular white European readers, came to see themselves in Japhet, another word possessing an unclear etymology, but the elder son name was thought to be related to the Hebrew word Yafeh, meaning beautiful. White is beautiful to white readers. Over time, European biblicists recast a colorless biblical narrative as a prophecy of possession and predestination, in which the righteous Noah, a man who walked with God, damns the black son who sullied his godlike father's honor. Eved avadim yehieh le'achav. Punishing him for his treachery, Noah fates Ham and his African descendants to eternal and deserved enslavement by his white brother Japhet, and by Japhet's European progeny. Midrash teaches that after the flood, when Noah got off of the ark, he repurposed its timbers to build an altar in order to make an offering to God. By the 1600s, white Europeans had repurposed the mythic elements of the final chapter of Noah's story to build a racial ideology with real-world implications. Fusing Christian dogma with ideas of African servitude, Western Europeans transformed Genesis 9:18 through 27 into a God-given proof text, or better maybe a pretext, for the construction of real wooden boats that set sail across real oceans, in which Africans were stowed in holds like animals and taken to the New World. It is hard to know which came first, caste or biblical interpretation. Race, however, is a recent phenomenon in human history, dating to the start of the transatlantic slave trade. It was in the making of the New World that Europeans became white, Africans black, and everyone else yellow, red, or brown. Particularly here in America, where the story of the curse of Ham served as sacred handbook for the ruthless domination of black slaves by white Southern plantation owners. With whip in one hand and Genesis 9:18 through 27 in the other, these tillers of the soil who self-identified as the progeny of that first farmer, white and righteous Noah, they strove to restore his honor and to fulfill Noah's prophecy. The source text for much of the fusion of history, biblical interpretation, and religious ideology that comprises this sermon is Isabel Wilkerson's Caste, The Origins of Our Discontents. I recommend it to you. Wilkerson teaches that caste, like race, is an artificial construct, a fixed hierarchy used to determine standing and respect, assumptions of beauty and competence, access to resources, and even who, in America, gets the benefit of the doubt. At the very bottom of America's caste system, from its inception in the 17th century, were those, or are those, now the descendants of those who were brought here to be enslaved. To this day, your standing in the hierarchy of caste in America is in great part indexed to the color of your skin. The more you look like the Western Europeans who devised our caste system, the higher your elevation, the closer you are to its apex. Race, and more trenchantly racism, functions as a tool for the maintenance of caste. It keeps everyone in their proper place. But caste is more comprehensive, more insidious than race, in great part because we often cannot see its underlying architecture. But it's there, undergirding much of the injustice and disparity that we live with in this country. To paraphrase the title of Wilkerson's book, caste is the origin of our discontents, and in the course of human history, 3 caste systems have risen to the top. The oldest and largest democracies, India and the United States, are both built on caste structures fortified by readings of sacred texts. But only one of these systems begot another. When the Nazis sought to rapidly construct a new caste system that would condemn Jews to its lowest subcaste, they looked to America for inspiration, where, after the Civil War, the waterlogged, rotting boards of Noah's Ark had once again been repurposed to build a new iteration of a now centuries-old system of white supremacy. This thoroughly American caste system acquired a name, Jim Crow. And in the 1920s and 30s, it acquired some avid German students. With admiration, the Nazis wondered how the United States had managed to turn its racial hierarchy into rigid law, yet retain such a sterling reputation in the world. So, they studied segregation in America and Jim Crow, and took careful note of its one-drop rule, a legal principle of racial classification which asserted that any person with even one black ancestor, one drop of black blood, that person was considered black. The Nazis' Nuremberg laws were the offspring of our enduring racial hierarchy that continues to debase black lives and to relegate people of color to its lowest tiers. From American anti-miscegenation statutes and from Jim Crow's emphasis on blood purity, the Nazis drew the textual precedents, vocabulary, and the legal structures for a caste system that consigned Jews to a doomed subcaste based on the noxious and entirely artificial concept of Jewish blood. One insidious caste system branched out from another, and the origin of both, the source text, Genesis 9:18 through 27. The animals went in 2 by 2, hurrah, hurrah. The animals went in 2 by 2, hurrah, hurrah. The animals went in 2 by 2, the elephant and the kangaroo, and they all went into the ark for to get out of the rain. A Civil War song, When Johnny Comes Marching Home, a drinking song sung by both Confederate and Union soldiers, provides the melody for this little ditty about Noah and his ark. I knew the name of this tune, but when I learned of its provenance in the course of researching this sermon, I realize that unintentionally, unwittingly, by using this melody to convey the story of Noah, we've long been singing of caste and race, of bloodshed and white supremacy. We've long been singing to children of all of these subcutaneous meanings now held by the end of Noah's story. We just couldn't hear them as we hum, because most of our Ashkenazi ancestors didn't arrive on the shores of this country until after the war had ended. Or, as we sing, we couldn't grasp white supremacist readings of this 10-verse myth, in great part because, as I said at the outset of this sermon, we Jews rarely discuss the end of Noah's story. But also, in great part, we aren't attuned to these pernicious meanings because we white Jews have a propensity to not see ourselves as white. After all, we aren't white, we're Jews. At least that's what we tell ourselves. I know I have. And despite analysis of the human genome that has established as fact that all human beings are 99.9% the same, we also don't see ourselves as black. That could be because we aren't supposed to see blackness, particularly if you, like me, were encouraged as a child to be colorblind, which meant that we were not supposed to see blackness. I tried. It didn't work. Instead, I became blind to, or I was never taught to see, the rights and privileges that our caste system accorded to me solely because of the color of my skin. Now and again, however, I would find myself for a few moments considering my own pigmentation, my skin tone. It usually happened when I needed to fill out an official document or survey like the 2020 census. Maybe this happens to you too. I look in vain for a little box to check that says Jewish, but then I settle for the one that says white. It is perhaps the only time that I personally experience, that I feel how the color of your skin can confine you to a box. But caste is insensitive to feelings. Mine, yours. The Nazis' caste system certainly didn't care about Jews' feelings, and the American caste system in which we are all enmeshed is clearly insensitive to the feelings of blacks and other peoples of color. The hierarchy of caste doesn't care about feelings. That's because caste isn't about feelings. It's about power and who holds it. It's about resources, which castes have them and which do not. It's about authority and respect and who has it and who doesn't. And we, white American Jews, we hold all three: respect, resources, and power. Our power is the evidence of our success in this country, and our accrual of multi-generational wealth, political influence, and high social status, all those things can be attributed to many factors, including our own resilience when targeted by bigots and anti-Semites. As an ethnic minority, we have overcome our share of obstacles. But Jewish success in America, particularly for Jews of Ashkenazi descent, was rarely impeded by the color of our skin, one of the very few immutable features of all human beings' identities. And in a hierarchical system indexed to skin color, white Jews, like many of us, are able to pass in ways that our darker-skinned neighbors, fellow citizens, and fellow Jews are not. Since we are able to pass, as an ethnic group, we've also been able to rise. In a remarkably short period, particularly in comparison to the descendants of enslaved Africans, we American Jews have risen from lower to middle to upper caste. And now that we live near or at the apex of one white supremacist caste system, let us never forget that we were once the lowest subcaste of another. After the flood, Shem, Ham, and Japhet were the sons of Noah who came out of the ark. And from them, the whole world branched out. We Jews aren't responsible for the millennia of white Christian interpretations of the last chapter of Noah's story. But we, white American Jews, have benefited from what white supremacists wrought from a 10-verse story found in our Torah. The great and tragic irony, however, is that Genesis 9:18 through 27, although a story about differentiation, its writers were making a case for how Israelites are different from Canaanites, and a story about filial responsibility and kinship, a story that asserts that we are all the descendants of Noah. The source text for America's racially based caste system, Genesis 9:18 through 27, it's about all of these things and so many other meanings, but what it isn't about, what it isn't, is a story about race and racism. It can't be, because there is no race or racism in the Bible, but that's a teaching for a different sermon. The teaching of this sermon is, in the midst of the storm of hate, political polarization, and of rising inequity that is flooding our country, I fear that we upper caste Jews are becoming increasingly incapable of hearing and heeding a different prophecy birthed from the same sacred texts that undergird caste in America. As old as Jim Crow, and passed down by our white American forebearers in order to serve us as a sacred handbook, this interpretive tradition repurposes mythic elements of Noah's story to build a new ideology predicated not on curse and segregation, but upon kinship and righteousness. It goes like this. In 1885, 20 years after all those Johnnies went marching home, 15 Reform rabbis gathered in Pittsburgh to issue what was the first of what are now 5 statements that delineate the principles of Reform Judaism. The 8th and final plank of what is known as the Pittsburgh Platform states, "We deem it our duty to participate in the great task of modern times, to solve on the basis of justice and righteousness the problems presented by the contrasts and evils of the present organization of society." In the next declaration of principles, as the terrors of the Nazi regime were slowly becoming known, a new generation of Reform rabbis declared in the Columbus Platform of 1937, "Judaism emphasizes the kinship of the human race and aims at the elimination of man-made misery and suffering. Justice to all is the inalienable right and the inescapable obligation of all." The 1976 platform, adopted in San Francisco, states, "Judaism emphasizes action rather than creed as the primary expression of a religious life, the means by which we strive to achieve universal justice and peace." This platform, my personal favorite, engendered the contemporary watchwords of Reform Judaism: individual autonomy and choice through knowledge. Plank by plank, platform by platform, our Reformed Jewish forebearers articulated for us, their descendants, a counter-construct to racial hierarchy in America, an ideology founded not on an artificial construct such as skin color, but built upon the cornerstone of justice, of righteousness, of tzedek. When Shem and Japhet entered Noah's tent to cover up their father's nakedness, a midrash teaches that they hid their faces with their hands while they walked backwards into their father's tent. On this day, on Yom Kippur, we have entered this tent, our virtual Mishkan, to reckon with our past and to recommit ourselves to the pursuit of righteousness in our time. Though we all may be the descendants of Noah, unlike Shem and Japhet, We Reformed Jews don't avert our eyes from painful truths. We turn around and look. Confronted with new knowledge, we reassess our understandings of our past and, accordingly, change our actions. And if we are committed to being righteous in our age, like Noah was in his, we must then fuse our understandings of the well-known opening words of Noah's story with our knowledge of the uncomfortable truths that are now contained in its ending. We are the descendants of Noah, and we, white Jews, are the beneficiaries of a caste system that plagues our country. A byproduct of our privilege is that we possess the power to dismantle systems of inequity and injustice. To do that, it will likely require us to cede some of our power and to transfer some of our wealth. And while these truths may feel uncomfortable, righteousness, like caste, isn't about feelings. It's about action. We are the heirs to a prophetic tradition that instructs us to prioritize action and obligates our pursuit of justice. A magnificent ideology that grants us individual autonomy and the right to make informed choices about our practice. So I ask, in this year of 5781, with our new knowledge, what actions will we take?
We continue on page 22 for the Baruch Hu. If you're able, please rise.
Baruch Hu et Adonai habarach. Baruch Adonai hamevorach leolam eved.
Please turn to page 24. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, v'chochma poteach she'arim, uvitfuna mishaneh itim, umachalif et hazmanim, umisader et hakochavim, b'mishmerotehem barakia kirtzono, borei yom v'layla, golel or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or.
Uma'avir yom, umevi laila, umabdil ben yom uven laila. Adonai tzvaot shemo, El chai v'kayam, tamid yimloch aleinu le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai hamariv aravim.
Page
page 26. Love beyond all space and time. Your love enfolds your people Israel. We receive it in your teaching, your gift of Torah, sacred obligations, discipline, and law. So let us speak these teachings when we lie down and rise up, and find joy forever in your Torah and mitzvot. They are the very essence of our life, ours to ponder and study all our days. May we never lose or be unworthy of your love.
Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Eved.
Please be seated. We continue on page 31. Listen, all you who wrestle with your fate. The intimate and the infinite are one. Trust that unity with your whole heart, doubt and all, with your whole soul, and with all the powers at your command. Remember it, repeat it everywhere, working or resting, sitting or walking, night and morning, alone and to all you love. See it written on your hand, on your brow, in every common place, and in every face.
Adonai Elohechem Emet.
We turn to page 40 for the Song of Our Redemption, Mi Chamocha.
Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, nora tehilot osef eleh, malechutecha ra'uvanecha, bokei hayam lifnei Moshe. Zeiri anu ve'ameru Adonai imloch le'olam eved. V'ne'emar Kifat Adonai et Yaakov uge'alo mi'ad chazak mimenu. Baruch atah Adonai Gal Yisrael.
Page 43, The Peace of Wild Things. When despair for the world grows in me, and I wake in the night at the least sound, in fear of what my life and my children's lives may be, I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in his beauty on the water, and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things, who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day-blind stars waiting with their light. For a time I rest in the grace of the world and am free. Hashkivenu is on page 42.
Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom, aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael ve'al Yerushalayim
Please turn to page 45. For on this day, atonement shall be made for you, to purify you from all your wrongs, and pure you shall be in the presence of Adonai.
כי ביום הזה יכפר עליכם לטהר אתכם מכל חטאותיכם לפני אדוני
On page 46 is the evening Amidah, the tefillah, our prayer where we stand before God. If you're able at this time, I invite you to rise.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avoteinu v'Imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak ve'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel ve'Elohei Leah Ha'el HaGadol HaGibor v'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim V'konei HaKol V'zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot U'mevii Geula Livnei V'neihem L'man Shemo Ve'avot Bezrat Sarah.
Take a moment of silence with your own thought, either in the prayer books to page 81, or you can use the prompts that we'll put up on the screen. When you're done with your private meditation, you can be seated. How wonderful to hear the choir with that beautiful rendition of Psalm 19. Thank you. Turn to page 82, where we begin the Vidui, our confession.
Hirshanu Tafalnu sheker.
Tafalnu sheker.
Of these wrongs we are guilty. We betray, we steal, we scorn. We act perversely, we are cruel, we scheme, we are violent, we slander, we devise evil, we lie, we ridicule, we disobey, we abuse, we defy, we corrupt, we commit crimes, we are hostile, we are stubborn, we are immoral, we kill, we spoil, we go astray, we lead others astray. We'll turn to page 86. Vidui Rabbah, the long confession. For these sins, our gods, we ask forgiveness. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha bizdon uvishgaga, ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha bidibor peh.
The ways we have wronged you deliberately and by mistake, and harm we have caused in your world through words of our mouths. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha be'imutz halev, ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha betifshot peh.
The ways we have wronged you by hardening our hearts, and harm we have caused in your world through careless speech. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha bekachash uvchazav, ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha bir chilut.
The ways we have wronged you through lies and deceit, and harm we have caused in your world through gossip and rumor. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha biflilut, ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha bezilzul chorim umorim.
The ways we have wronged you by judging others unfairly, and harm we have caused in your world through disrespect to parents and teachers. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha bividui peh, ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha behonaat re'ah.
The ways we have wronged you through insincere apologies, and harm we have caused in your world by mistreating a friend or neighbor. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha bechozek yad, ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha b'masa uv'matan.
The ways we have wronged you through violence and abuse, and harm we have caused in your world through dishonesty in business. V'al kulam Elohai slichot, salach lanu, machal lanu, kaper lanu.
For all these failures of judgment and will, God of forgiveness, forgive us, pardon us, lead us to atonement. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha begalui uvesater, ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha befrikat ol.
The ways we have wronged you openly and secretly, and harm we have caused in your world by losing self-control. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha begilui arayot, ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha bemachal uvmishteh.
The ways we have wronged you through sexual immorality, and harm we have caused in your world through consumption of food and drink. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha beyetzer hara, ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha beneshech uv'marbit.
The ways we have wronged you by giving in to our hostile impulses, and harm we have caused in your world through greed and exploitation. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha bilatzon, ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha b'niyat garon.
The ways we have wronged you through cynicism and scorn, and harm we have caused in your world through arrogant behavior. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha b'sinat chinam, ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha b'tumat sfatayim.
The ways we have wronged you by hating without cause, and harm we have caused in your world through offensive speech. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha bilishon hara, ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha bitzarut ayin.
The ways we have wronged you with a slanderous tongue, and harm we have caused in your world through a selfish or petty spirit.
Ve'al kulam Elohai slichot, salach lanu, machal lanu, kaper lanu.
For all these failures of judgment and will, God of forgiveness, forgive us, pardon us, lead us to atonement.
Turn to page 96.
Lemano הורינו מבוקר ויראה חינוננו עד הערב ויראה חינוננו עד הערב.
Page 98. Hear our call, Adonai, our God. Show us compassion. Accept our prayer with love and goodwill. With hope, Adonai, we await you. Surely you, Adonai, our God, you will answer.
Continue on page 112. If you're able, I invite you to please rise. Avinu Malkeinu, ha'er lanu et derech hayenu. Avinu Malkeinu, illumine for us the path of our life. Avinu Malkeinu, how shall we find the strength to take the road less traveled by? Avinu Malkeinu, how shall we come to know the purpose of our existence? Avinu Malkeinu, how shall we learn not to live life in vain? Avinu Malkeinu, how shall we get out of our indifference? Avinu Malkeinu, how shall we distinguish between truth and falsehood? Avinu Malkeinu, how shall we find the answers to our questions? Avinu Malkeinu, how shall we gird ourselves with strength to seek answers? Continue on page 114.
Avinu Malkeinu, Shema Kolenu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chatanu Lifanecha,
Avinu Malkeinu, Almighty and merciful, answer us with grace, for our deeds are wanting. Save us through acts of justice and love. Continue with Aleinu, page 116.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגור עלינו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
We continue on page 119.
A few announcements this evening. First, a reminder about 3 important areas that Beth Am is focusing our tzedakah efforts on during this High Holy Day season. You see them here on the screen. First is support for those impacted by the devastating wildfires. Next, helping local and Israeli food programs to help feed those who are hungry. And finally, making sure that everyone who is eligible to vote is registered and has a plan to vote. You can learn more about all of these important efforts and donate as well. We encourage you to give generously at betham.org/justice. To review our schedule for tomorrow, our Yom Kippur family service for school-age kids and their parents and families starts tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Our main service begins at 10:30, followed by our Yom Kippur afternoon study sessions. As is our custom on Yom Kippur afternoon, Beth Am members will be offering a number of different learning sessions on a variety of different Jewish topics. The first block of study sessions begin at 1 p.m., and the second block begins at 2:15. You can learn more and register for those study sessions at betham.org/event/kippur-study-sessions-2020, or find a link by clicking through at the High Holy Day Central, betham.org/HHD-2020. Music and meditation will begin tomorrow afternoon following the study sessions at 3:15, available on this streaming page as well. Our afternoon service tomorrow begins at 4 o'clock, with Yizkor beginning around 5:15, and Ne'ilah, our concluding service, beginning around 6, with a final Tekiah Gedolah around 6:45. We continue now on page 121. Preparing for the prayer of memory. This holy night concludes with memory. Our last thoughts always are of those we have lost. We miss them especially tonight, yearning for their presence at our side. The service we have shared was once theirs. They spoke and sang the ancient words. They prayed, repented, and yearned for better lives, as we have done. Flawed in their deeds, imperfect in their faith, they still drew strength from their tradition as we seek fortitude in ours. What was good and beautiful in their lives once gave us joy and now inspires us to reach higher. The knowledge that they loved us deeply brings comfort to our hearts. So we light candles of remembrance and gratitude, and we speak this timeless truth. Zichronam livracha. Their memory is a blessing, now and forever. We pray that their goodness will live on in our lives, planting seeds of kindness and hope for generations to come. I invite you now to share the names of those loved ones whom you're remembering this evening. We rise, if able, in their honor, page 122, for Kaddish Yatom, Mourner's Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah, ve'alma divra chirotei, ve'amlich malchutei, v'chayechon u'vyomechon, u'v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'vizman kariv v'imru Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam u'lalmei almaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal, Shmei dekudesha b'richu, le'ela u'le'ela mikol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shamaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, Hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru Amen. May the source of peace bestow peace on all who mourn, and may we be a source of comfort to all who are bereaved. We say together, Amen.
Amen.
Page 123. Page 127. Yehi ratzon milfanecha, Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, shetechadesh aleinu shana tova v'metuka. Our God and God of our ancestors, eternal God of all generations, may your presence in our lives this new year renew our spirits and renew our strength. May it be a good year. May it be a sweet year.
Shiva
L'shana tova tikatevu v'techatemu. May you be inscribed and sealed for a good year. And may you get your rest, because tomorrow we have a big day together. So good night and sleep well.
עבדו את השם בשמחה, בואו לפניו אביר נענה. עבדו את השם בשמחה,
בואו לפניו אביר נענה. בואו לפניו,
בואו לפניו,
בואו לפניו אביר נענה. עבדו את השם בשמחה, בואו לפניו אביר נענה. עבדו את השם בשמחה, בואו לפניו. עבדו את השם בשמחה, בואו לפניו אביר נענה. עבדו את השם בשמחה, בואו לפניו. כי השם הוא אלוהים, הוא עשנו גדול אנחנו. כי השם הוא אלוהים, אנחנו עמו וצאן מרעיתו. כי השם הוא אלוקים, אנחנו עמו צאן מרעיתו.